All right, we're back, and thanks for joining me. It's 20 November, getting pretty close to that date, 59 years ago? Yeah, so we're about 2 days from the assassination date, 59 years ago. Anyway, so we're going to just keep going down the timeline. This Black Op Radio timeline may take a little while, but it's really good stuff. They put a lot of good stuff in there. The thing I wanted to talk about real quick, though, is my dad. He was an accountant, and so he would make sure you got all your shit together. He would do an audit and basically bring an accounting to, all your work you've done that year, cash coming in, cash going out, labor taxes, all that kind of stuff. So that's all I'm doing here. I'm not investigating, I'm not making new discoveries. It's my sincere belief that most of the paperwork, most of the work that is available is out there now. I do believe that all the guilty parties, whether it's in the government or in the mob or the mafia or the oilmen, have all destroyed any kind of incriminating paperwork or evidence that we're never going to get our hands on. But you can make inferences from paperwork that does exist. There's still, I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of copies of pieces of paper that, Trump and Biden haven't released, even though they're supposed to back in 2017, all of it. But I think with everything we have now, we know what happened. It's just a matter of putting it in the right order and coming to some logical conclusions. Again, there's certain things that's going to be, gray areas, but we can kind of get a good idea by all the information that's out there right now. All you got to do is just put it together and then, make logical conclusions from that. What we've been doing is, it's like a scientist who's trying to create something, but he's left off one element. Then another scientist comes along, and he takes some of that and then adds something else and leaves off something else. And another scientist comes along, and he has some ideas, and he adds something, takes what was there before, leaves off certain things that were important, and so they all kind of miss the mark a little bit. Now, I'm not saying this is going to be the final one that hits the mark, but I can't do everything, I can't know everything, but I'm going to go over as much as I know, and then hopefully there are people out there that can add to it, and hopefully adding to it we can get a really, really clear, good idea of what's going on. Of course, there's always going to be arguments and disagreements. You've never had they don't call them 12 angry men and a jury for no reason. The reason why is because they all have their different opinions after seeing all the same evidence. So that just tells you something there. Anyway, we're going to get back into this Black Op Radio. I did want to say something about Oswald. I said yesterday, either just going to keep reminding people that either Oswald was a genius that snookered us all and became infamous with this little rinky-dinky little, Manor Liquor Marcano rifle, or he was what he said he was. He was a patsy. He was framed. And we're going to find out, more about that. But, all right, so we'll get into this timeline. It's really good, and we'll keep going. All right, I want to go back to this paper bag thing again. Again, no Oswald's or anyone's fingerprints were found on the paper bag. And the obvious question for me is, paper is very fragile. It can break. You've got metal parts inside that rifle, wooden parts that can pop through and bust through while you're carrying that paper bag. Oswald had it wrapped in a blanket, and because Marina knew it was wrapped in a blanket, because she told the police He kept it in the blanket. They lifted the blanket and it hung over the policeman's arm, as Mrs. Payne said. Why not take the rifle broken down in the blanket and then tie a rope around it on the outside? You can still say it's curtain rods, but you take a rifle that could bust and pop out because it's metal through this flimsy paper. Doesn't make much sense unless it wasn't something that was large, like a stock of a gun or a rifle barrel that could bust through the paper, or if it was just curtain rods, like he said. Anyway, I just thought of that. Why not just keep it if you're going to take it to the school? And the thing also you have to think about, is he had taken the rifle already to the firing range several times, supposedly, according to eyewitnesses, and also over to Walker's house, and he must have done it on the bus. So what was he carrying it in? Was he carrying it in that blanket? Why wouldn't he carry it in the blanket, or whatever means he was able to carry it on the bus, before to the rifle range and to Walker's? Why wouldn't he continue to carry that, but instead constructs this flimsy piece of paper? And then, it just doesn't make any sense. That's what I'm trying to say, is why construct this paper bag? The reason for constructing the paper bag is so it would have his fingerprints on it, but for some reason it didn't have his fingerprints on it. So I'm still confused whether he's involved or uninvolved, or was told to take the paper bag. I don't know. But again, if you had used some other means besides the paper bag, to carry the rifle to the rifle range, to carry the rifle to supposedly attempt to assassinate Walker, and you're carrying this rifle broken down on the bus, you're carrying it in the blanket, or you're carrying it in something, why change to the flimsy paper bag when, if you carry it the wrong way, the scope could pop out because it's metal and break the bag, the rifle barrel could pop out, all the ammunition could spill out. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, we'll keep going.
On his person the 6-foot length of wrapping paper necessary to construct a bag, consisting of 2 sheets, each about 3 feet long, sealed at the edges. Lee Harvey Oswald's fingerprints will not be found on the brown paper bag. "7:55 a.m. Lee Harvey Oswald and Wesley Frazier arrive at the parking lot next to the Texas School Book Depository. It is raining. Lee Harvey Oswald leaves the car and walks ahead of Frazier into the building. Oswald is out of Frazier's sight for a few minutes."
And there's another obvious thing, Unless Oswald doesn't watch the news or read about the weather for the next day in the newspaper, or see it on the TV at his house on Beckley, why would you carry a rifle in a flimsy paper bag in the rain? There's another thing. Why not keep it in a more secure blanket or carrier of some kind instead of a flim paper bag? A paper bag is going to get wet. It's going to get moist. It makes it more dangerous to be discovered bringing the rifle in. So again, that's another thing that doesn't make any sense.
Moments before he enters the building, those who see Oswald enter the Texas School Book Depository will later say he does not enter the building carrying a package. Wesley Frazier tells police that Oswald carries a long package into the Texas School Book Depository, but psychological stress evaluation tests indicate that he is lying. 8:45 a.m., November 22nd, 1963. A light rain is falling. JFK emerges from his hotel in Fort Worth and strides across the street to greet a crowd waiting for him in the parking lot. Going downstairs, JFK sees his driver, Muggsy O'Leary, and tells him, "Mary Gallagher wasn't here last night." Jackie, "Mary hasn't any business in motorcade. She's supposed to reach hotels before we do, and so forth."
One thing also I wanted to say about that Frazier was the only one that said he saw him, besides his sister, carrying the paper bag. No one other employees saw Oswald carrying the paper bag. Another thing is that Frazier even admits to being confronted by the police to sign a confession that he was part of the conspiracy, and he got angry and almost physically attacked one of the policemen. So I'm not saying that Frazier's lying, but maybe that might be a good incentive to say that, hey, yes, look, all you have to do is just say, Oswald, you saw Oswald carrying a package, and that's how he got the rifle into the school book depository, and just say that he told you it was curtain rods. Okay. Another thing that's interesting I've heard, I don't have any documents on it yet, but that Frazier was in the military for quite a long time, something like 20 years. So that's kind of interesting. I think that he went into the military almost immediately after, within a year or so after this situation. Anyway, we'll keep going.
She's batting 0. Get her on the ball. At 8:53, he's telling the crowd that Jackie is, quote, organizing herself. She hears him say this from her bed in the hotel. 9 a.m. JFK enters the grand ballroom of the hotel in Fort Worth by going through the kitchen. He is to address the Fort Worth Chamber of Commerce and special invited guests. He asks Agent Duncan where Mrs. Kennedy is. "Call Clint Hill," he says. "I want her to come down to breakfast." 9:22 a.m. Agent Clint Hill advises Mrs. Kennedy that JFK expects her downstairs in the ballroom. 9:25 a.m. Jackie Kennedy appears at the breakfast wearing a pink suit and pillbox hat. She is warmly received.
Again, if Kennedy had all these women and all these affairs and all these, love things going on, do you think Mrs. Kennedy would be as receptive to helping him with his campaign, to tour with him? She could just say she was sick. "I can't make the tour with you." Kennedy knew he needed Jackie because she was the media darling. Okay? So do you think he's really going to screw that up by screwing around? And it's obviously going to get back to her. The White House isn't a large building. There's lots of Secret Service agents that see everything that's going on there. So, it just throws more water on the fire that Kennedy was all, out screwing around every damn night with some other woman. It just doesn't make any sense.
"9:55 a.m. At the Texas Hotel in Fort Worth, JFK and Jackie have returned to Suite 850. JFK informs Kenny O'Donnell that the presidential party will leave at 10:40. Jackie asks, "We have a whole hour?" JFK asks her if she's enjoying the trip. "Oh, Jack," she replies, "campaigning is so easy when you're the president." At approximately 10 o'clock this morning, Harold Norman, a worker in the Texas School Book Depository, will later testify,
"Julia Jarman and myself were on the first floor looking out towards Elm Street. Oswald walked up and asked us, 'What's everybody looking for? What's everybody waiting on?' So we told him we were waiting on the president to come by. He put his hand in his pocket and laughed and walked away. I thought maybe he's just been happy that morning or something."
At his hotel suite in Fort Worth, JFK says, "You know, last night would have been a hell of a night to assassinate a president. And it was the rain and the night, and we were all..."
Now we'll come across later where Frazier mentions to Oswald either the day before or the day of coming into town that the president's coming. I've never seen a president before, he says. And he said that Oswald just didn't seem interested at all. So, again, that says to you something, that if Oswald is this fanatic, this Marxist, this communist that is going to, if he's not the assassin but he's still a communist, don't you think he would say something to Frazier? Well, yeah, who cares about that damn capitalist, president? I'm not going to bother to go see him. Or, if he's a right-wing guy, he's going to probably keep quiet. If he's undercover, he's probably going to keep quiet. That's my opinion on that.
All getting jostled. Suppose a man had a pistol in his briefcase. He also sees a full-page advertisement in the Dallas Morning News. "Welcome, Mr. Kennedy, to Dallas." It asks why he has allowed thousands of Cubans to be jailed and wheat sold to those who are killing Americans in Vietnam. "Why have you scrapped the Monroe Doctrine in favor of the spirit of Moscow, Mr. Kennedy? We demand answers to these questions, and we want them now." JFK says, "We're heading into nut country today." "10:40 a.m. JFK's motorcade leaves the Texas Hotel for Carswell Air Force Base in Fort Worth in order to make the 13-minute flight to Dallas. There will be 36 people aboard Air Force One, not including the crew. Julius Hardy will tell the Dallas Morning News that he sees 3 men on top of the triple underpass this morning carrying either shotguns or rifles. Whether these men are police officers or not will never be determined. Hardy claims he reported the incident to the FBI, but no report about the incident has yet surfaced. 11:03 a.m. 6 members of the President's cabinet leave Honolulu for Japan by plane. Copies of their speeches have already been sent ahead. Some of these speeches will be printed in newspapers following the assassination as though nothing had occurred. It is highly unusual, if not unheard of, for so many members of the presidential cabinet to be away from the nation's capital at a given time. 11:17 a.m. Air Force One takes off from Fort Worth. The pilot, Colonel James Swindoll, asked permission to fly at 7,000 feet and is permitted the request. (11:39 a.m., November 22nd, 1963. Air Force One lands at Love Field, runway 31. For JFK, landing at Dallas completes 75,682 miles of air travel in Air Force One, approximately 3 times around the world in 1 year. During the 9 months prior to this day, the Secret Service has received more than 400 threats on the President's life. To officially end their security supervision of the motorcade 1 block short of the full route. This unsupervised block includes Dealey Plaza.
So you see how even the police or the sheriff's office is participating in the cover-up. They may not know why, they may not know what's going to happen, but they're being used. Maybe just the top person knows what's going on, but the other officers have no idea what's going on. So basically, you've got officers, lining the route on Main Street, And then when Kennedy gets into the kill zone of Houston and Elm, there's no officers, there's no police, there's no sheriff's officers. I mean, it gets even worse.
Dallas policeman, motorcycle escort Marion L. Baker.
Well, when we got to the airport, our sergeant instructed me there wouldn't be anybody riding beside the president's car.
Baker receives these instructions about 5 minutes before the motorcade leaves Love Field. Billy Joe Martin, another motorcade officer, reports that the 4 motorcycle officers covering the presidential limousine are ordered that under no circumstances are they to leave their positions regardless of what happens. Martin will eventually explain to the Warren Commission that the Secret Service told them that they didn't want anyone riding past the president's car and that they were to ride to the rear.
So again, like an onion, this is another layer of protection that's been removed. So you've got the Secret Service that's supposed to be with the president, beside him. They've been removed. You've got the sheriff's office and the police officers that are supposed to be in the crowd, watching the crowd. They've been removed from Dealey Plaza. They watch it all the way up to Houston, and then the police protection for the crowd stop. Then you've got the motorcycle officers who are supposed to ride along beside and offer another layer of protection. They've been pulled back. So that, like an onion, they pulled back another layer of protection. This is classic ambush style that you would want to do in like Afghanistan. Did I show those videos? Not yet. I'm going to show you some videos from Afghanistan where they've removed layers of protection, and then they hit them from the rear, and then they hit them from the front, and then it's just a turkey shoot in between. So this is what's going on here, and we'll keep going.
Martin allegedly tells his girlfriend, Jean Hill,
Johnson's Secret Service people come over to the motorcycle cops and gave us a bunch of instructions. They also ordered us to the damnedest escort formation I've ever seen. Now, ordinarily, you bracket the car with 4 motorcycles, one on each fender, but this time they told the 4 of us assigned to the president's car there'd be no forward escorts. We were to stay well in back and not let ourselves get ahead of the car's rear wheels under any circumstances. Now, I've never heard of a formation like that, much less ridden in one, but they said they wanted the crowds to get an unrestricted view of the president. Well,
Another thing also, when you have 4 motorcycle officers that are between the president's limousine and the Secret Service car, okay, instead of 2 on each corner, or 4 on each corner, or 1 on each corner, excuse me, that pushes the Secret Service car even further back. So instead of, maybe being right close to the president's car by 5 feet, 3 feet, whatever, now he's back 2 motorcycle lengths at least. So that further removes another layer of protection for the president.
I guess somebody got an unrestricted view of him, all right.
Bonnie Ray Williams and Billy Lovelady testify that they see Lee Harvey Oswald on the 5th.
Also, another thing you want to think about is, now, just say this is the limousine here. If you've got a motorcycle officer here, a motorcycle officer here, here, and here, even if they had stayed in their same position, if you're firing down and from behind, from the Texas School Book Depository, the officers aren't really going to be in the line of fire. Okay? The only reason you would remove the officers and push them back behind the limousine is because the officers here and the Secret Service agents, if they were on the running boards, would block the line of fire and the line of sight from a shot coming from the picket fence. It's going to be more on the horizontal. It's going to have to go through bodies, police officers, Secret Service bodies. If you're firing from the school book depository, you're firing down onto from behind. So it doesn't matter where the motorcycle officers are. So what that tells me is that there was a pre-plan for the assassination, for the final shot, the kill shot, to come from the picket fence. So, in classic ambush style, just like in Vietnam and just like in Afghanistan, you fire from the rear to get everyone's heads turning. You'll see pictures of the Secret Service agents turning back and looking back over their shoulders. Even Conley was trying to look back over his shoulder. Meanwhile, there's someone firing from the picket fence in front of him and to the right. They cleared the field of view there. You can see that the people... well, hold on one second. I'll show you something. Alright, so this is not the best photo, but it gives you a really good idea of what's going on here. So, as you can see, there are crowds here up to the Simmons Freeway sign. You've got the umbrella man, and you've got the radio man, who looks like he's Hispanic. As you can see right here, you see there's Kennedy's car, right there. If you draw a line right past the Simmons Freeway, you're right at the picket fence. Notice there's hardly anyone else in this area. It's almost like someone came down and removed them. The people, there's Bill Newman and his wife and daughter right there. They're standing by the man with the umbrella. So, there seems to be, one guy here, a few guys on the stairs down here. So it's almost like someone came along and asked people to move back up closer to here. You see? You can see the bunching up of the motorcycles here. There's two here, and then there's 1, 2 on the side there. And then there's the Secret Service car. You see how the Secret Service are on the running boards here. There should be one running us along the side here, another one running along the side here. A motorcycle cop should be at the front of the presidential limo. Another one should be between here and this limo. So you can see, okay, that the security has been peeled back. You see everybody is behind the back of the limo here. The crowd has been thinned out. Okay? The signalman with the umbrella is standing right there to let them know, because the picket fence shooter can't see Kennedy because of this sign. So he's pumping his umbrella. There's another guy with a radio here letting the shooter know at the picket fence that it's clear, Kennedy's through, and that's when he starts firing. Kennedy gets hit immediately here, and then Conley gets hit here, and then Kennedy gets hit again. Okay? Not all by the same shooter. There's someone firing down here from the Daltex building, or maybe even the school book depository. But you can see clearly the crowds have been moved away. The layers of protection have been removed from the president. One thing I do find interesting, though, look at the cops. They're looking forward. Right now there's no shot, but look at these Secret Service agents. They're looking in the direction of the picket fence, of the grassy knoll. They know, it's almost they're anticipating something's happening. You see this guy, he's knelt down like he's about to pull a rifle out. It's almost like they know something is about to happen. I don't know. It's just no one else is looking in those directions. Even these two are looking to the left. These two are looking to the right, up towards the grassy knoll. Very interesting. Anyway, so we'll keep going and see what else we have here.
Impatiently for them to send one of the elevators back up so that he can come down. The scenario is that the employees race the elevators to the first floor. Charles Gibbons sees Lee Harvey Oswald standing at the gate on the 5th floor as the elevator goes by. 11:45 a.m. John Stevens Reuter Lawrence will state in a Secret Service document that he is walking north on Ackerd Street from Commerce to Main when his attention is called to a man walking in the opposite direction on the same side of the street carrying a rifle. The man is about 6'5", weighs about 250 pounds or more. He appears to be a professional football type and very muscular. He has...
So I wanted to say something about that also. Hold on one second. Okay. So what he just said is that at 11:45, this witness spotted a man, a big muscular man with a rifle, at North Ackerd and Maine. Now, this is a very interesting spot right there because this is only 1 block from Ruby's Carousel Club, which is right here. Okay. It's also interesting, it's right next to the Adolphus Hotel, which is, if you remember Madeline Brown's discussion, she says that the Adolphus Hotel was where she met Lyndon Johnson. Also in the Adolphus Hotel was, I believe, I don't remember the exact room number, but there was a room that all the rich oil men got together once a week or so and played cards. And I'm sure they discussed certain things that were going on, and I'm sure they discussed that Kennedy was coming to, Dallas that week or the next week or something like that. But I find it interesting, it's right in that same area, like he was coming from either the Adolphus or coming from, the Carousel Club. Another interesting thing is that, I don't remember her name, but when Oswald first moved to Dallas, he got a room for about a week, about, 5-6 blocks to the east of Beckley, on the same street, just about 20 blocks north of where Ruby was staying. Ruby was living. Okay, so I found that interesting. But his roommate, or this landlady, said in a statement that she saw Oswald get on at North Eckerd and Elm onto the bus. That he was on the bus for a while and the traffic backed up, and that's when he got off the bus, was going to go get a cab, but gave the first cab to an older lady, okay, and then rode the cab back home. So Oswald is at Elm and Eckerd right here. The school book depository is right here. If Oswald was going to go home, which he lived, he would have gone this way, right across the Trinity River and down Commerce. He could have just gone right out and got a bus right here on the corner, but no. He walks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Let's see. Do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 blocks. He walks 10 blocks that way. Now, just to let you know, the police station is right here also. The police station is literally right here. The sheriff's office is like, I believe, right there. So, again, it defies logic. You just shot the President of the United States. You're the assassin. You leave the rifle, and instead of rushing home and getting on the first bus or catching a cab right out front to escape, what do? You walk 10 blocks in the opposite direction of where your pistol is at. Now, I don't know about you, but most people walk about a block a minute. So that's 10 minutes. If he left after Marion Baker saw him, like almost immediately, that would be 12:34. Now he's down to, with walking 10 minutes that way, he's up to 12:45. They already have a description of him out there. He's walking towards the police, towards the sheriff's office. What is he doing? He's also walking towards the Carousel Club. When Tippett is shot, supposedly Oswald shoots him at 10th and Patton. If you draw a straight line from his house to 10th and Patton and carry it on down, He's only 2-3 blocks away from Ruby's house on Marcellus. So it implies to me that he's not worried that, oh, I'm not the assassin. He's not trying to get away from the police. It says to me that if you use logic, that if he is working for the government as an FBI informant infiltrating these right-wing groups or posing as a Marxist, what it says to me is that once he came outside, once Marion Baker confronted him with the gun, then he realized that Kennedy actually got shot. His warnings weren't taken seriously. Okay? So that's when he leaves. He's like, shit, something went wrong. Well, okay, I'm going to go back and talk to Ruby, and maybe he knows what's going on. Okay? So he walks the 10 minutes instead of, oh shit, I got to get out of here. I just shot the president. I got to get back to my house and get my gun that I was stupid enough not to take my handgun with me, or just get on the bus right there in front, or a cab right there in front, and then he's home in less than 5 minutes. He takes 10 minutes, walks towards the police. All the police are converging on that area because they all had lined up on Main. Now he's a block from the police station, a block from where all the police are lined up on Main. It doesn't sound like an assassin to me. It doesn't sound like someone who just committed a crime and is trying to get away from the police, now does it? Maybe he went and was able to contact Ruby. I doubt it, because Ruby maybe would have told him, hey, get the hell out of here, or they would have had a discussion. That would have put him way past the time that his landlady saw him. And she says it was around 12:45. So he left the school book depository immediately, walked straight up Elm, jogged over to the carousel, found out the carousel club was closed because it's on Main. There's crowds of people there. Then he goes back over to Elm, waits for the bus at Eckerd, gets on the bus there. It goes down Elm, slows down because of the crowds and everything going on ahead of it. He gets a transfer, gets out of the bus, goes to get a cab, passes up that cab and gives it to another woman, gets the next cab. Doesn't sound like someone who's trying to run from the police because he just killed the President of the United States, now does it? Again, Oswald does these weird things where he acts like he's guilty, and then other things where he acts completely innocent. It's just another indication. Anyway, so he goes down, catches the cab drops him off, but then he does something which makes him look guilty. He has the driver of the cab drop him off a block past his house. That either says he's trying to hide so the driver can't report later on that, yeah, I dropped a guy off that fit the description at this address, or he realizes that, hey, somebody shot the president and I don't want to get pulled into this, so I'm not going to give the guy where I live and have him drop me off a block past where I live. So that isn't, I don't know. Anyway, so we'll keep going on here, and we'll keep this map up just to be handy for the grassy knoll and all these other things that we're going to come across here. Yeah, we'll leave it like that. All right, we'll keep going.
Has dirty blonde hair and wears it in a short crew cut. The man is in his late 30s and is wearing a light-colored business suit and white business shirt. 11:50 a.m. Charles Givens now observes Lee Harvey Oswald reading a newspaper in the domino room where the employees eat lunch. This room is on the first floor of the book depository building. He will later deny testifying to this fact. William Shelley will testify that he sees Oswald on the first floor when he, Shelley, quote, came down to eat lunch about 10 to 12, end of quote.
So think about it. Kennedy's running 15 minutes late. He's supposed to be passing that area at 12:15. Oswald doesn't know this, okay? He's gone to lunch, so he doesn't have to account for his time. Why would he be down in the domino room reading a newspaper 25 minutes before the president is about to come by? I'd be nervous. If I was going to kill the president, I'd be up in that 6th floor, setting up my boxes, checking, assembling my rifle. Think about that rifle. It's going to take 10 minutes. There's a little screw on the bottom that you have to screw in with the tool, okay? And that's going to take 5-10 minutes to put that rifle back together. Then you got to sight the scope. And think about that also. He's going to be firing at the president without a sighted rifle that's been disassembled. When you disassemble things like that, things move. So the sights are going to be off, the scope is going to be off. How could he even possibly expect to hit the president with all that? But, here he is down in the domino room on the first floor, 5 floors below, 25 minutes for the president's about to get there, reading the newspaper.
11:55 a.m. JFK's motorcade leaves Loveville for a trip through downtown Dallas to the Trade Mart. Marty Underwood says,
They had a hell of a fight there for about 5 minutes that day before they started the motorcade. I don't mean fight, but...
concerning the bubble top for the presidential limo.
Jackie wanted it up, and Kenny O'Donnell wanted it up, and Connolly wanted it up. He, JFK, wanted people to see Jackie. We were getting ready to start the motorcade, and Connolly, Kenny O'Donnell, and Dave Powers and everybody talked to Kennedy and said, look, let's put the bubble top up. And he said, no, this is Jackie's first trip, and the people love her, and I'm going to keep it down. It was his idea all the way.
Agent Sam Kenny, however, admits to Vince Palomara that it was his sole responsibility for the removal of the bubble top, a decision he has lived with some regret for over 30 years now. Richard Greer, son of the late Bill Greer, spoke of his father's guilt over the decision of the Secret Service. 3 Secret Service agents, Sam Kenny, Bob Lilly, and Thomas Kelly, stated that the bubble top, although not bulletproof, may have at least deflected a bullet, or at the very least somewhat hampered a gunman's view via the sun's glare off its surface.
There you go.
In 1991, Marty Underwood gives an interview to researcher Vincent Palomara, in which he says that the CIA, the FBI, and the Mafia, quote, knew JFK was going to be hit, end of quote, on 11/22/63. This information came from his direct contacts with CIA officer Win Scott, the Mexico City station chief, during Oswald's visit to that region. Additionally,
I'm going to go over this document later. There's a document from the CIA mentioning Manuel Artime, who is the head of one of these anti-Castro groups, and in the document itself, it mentions the date of November 22nd, 1963, that was the date that a popular uprising was supposed to start in Cuba, which would lead to an invasion by these anti-Castro groups. So why would they put down just the 22nd of November if it didn't have to do with Kennedy being killed? But this document actually dates back to about August of 1963. So they were planning ahead that Kennedy would be killed. This crazy Oswald Marxist who loved Cuba and tried to get into Cuba would be blamed. They would start a supposedly, spontaneous popular uprising in Cuba, and then that would give a green flag for these anti-Castro groups to invade Cuba, and eventually, most likely because Kennedy was dead, would involve U.S. military brought in by Johnson, because he would be forced to act of some sort. There were also cases showing that they were planning on bombings at Guantanamo Bay to spark popular revolutions and to spark the next president to invade Cuba or take some kind of military action.
Underwood stated that 18 hours before Kennedy's murder, quote,
"We were getting all sorts of rumors that the president was going to be assassinated in Dallas. There were no ifs, ands, or buts about it."
When Underwood tells JFK about these disturbing reports, the president merely says, "Marty, you worry too much about me." The motorcade itself is...
So, there were reports of an attempted plan for assassination in Miami, in Tampa, and in Chicago. And these all happened within a month before. Now, they caught someone in Chicago. They got another guy on tape from Miami. And, of course, Santos Traficante, that's his home turf in Tampa there. So, think about it. And I'll give you an example. In 1973, Sadat wanted to get back the Sinai and get back Egyptian territory from Israel. But he knew the Israelis had spy flights and they got satellite information from the United States and they had observers along the Suez Canal. So they would notice any troop buildups and any armor buildups and any kind of offensive looking type, movements that would be happening, because you have to bring up large amounts of troops, tanks, you got to bring up fuel and food. People are going to be called away from their homes to be sent to the front. The Israelis are going to have informants at military bases that will know that people are planning and exercising, and this whole units have moved out off their base. So there's certain processes that have to occur. You just can't show up at the front without nobody knowing about it. So what Sadat did, generals are very smart, for a month or two before, they kept doing exercises. They would send up troops right up to the Suez Canal, say it's an exercise, run around for a couple of days, and bring them back. Then the next week, another unit at another part of the canal would come up, run around, fire off guns, say it's an exercise, and come back. And they kept doing this back and forth, and it lulled the Israeli intelligence into, they weren't as sharp as they should have been. Okay? So this is what you do with this. If you got the Secret Service supposedly protecting the President of the United States, you flood him along the way before he gets to Dallas with fake or maybe semi-planned assassination attempts or assassination rumors. So they're on guard in the beginning, and then later on they're guard by the time they get to Dallas, because they literally went from Chicago to Miami to Tampa to Houston to Fort Worth to Dallas. And so by the time they get to Dallas, all these things that had happened within a couple of weeks before, their guard is down. So again, that's another layer of that onion of protection. You've worn out the sixth sense of the Secret Service. Then you've gotten a lot of them drunk in a club and kept them up late at night, so their senses and they'd be tired. In Fort Worth, you've gone in and you've removed the sheriff and police protection. There's no Secret Service in the crowd. You've also, we'll find out later, there's a military unit that should have come up from San Antonio and mingled with the crowds like civilians to offer extra protection to the president, that unit was removed. The police officers that ride along beside Kennedy with the motorcycles, those are pulled back. The Secret Service agents that should be running along beside the president or on the president's car, they've been pulled back. The bubble top, which would have distracted or put glare on the firing line, that's been pulled off. So you have all these different layers that ensure Kennedy, and also, I forgot the last thing, the crowds end after the Simmons Freeway sign, which gives a clear view, because there's the man there with the umbrella and the signal man, the Cuban guy with the radio, for the final, kill shot from the picket fence. So there's all these layers, and I can understand maybe if one is down or one doesn't work effectively, but when you remove all those layers, and I'm sure there are many, many other layers that were removed, that I don't know about yet, and I'm sure other people will let me know. When you put all those together, that tells me there was a conspiracy of some kind. Now, I'm not saying the Secret Service and the head of the Secret Service and all the agents that were guarding Kennedy were involved. I'm not saying that the FBI and the head of the FBI and all those people were involved. I'm not saying that the CIA and the head of the CIA were involved. I'm not saying Johnson was the only one that was involved. I'm not saying it's just the mafia. But in organizations, you're going to have different people of different political persuasions, okay, that could use their positions in their company or in their department to ensure that things happen. Some may be aware of the assassination that's coming. Some may be told to do certain things. They're not even aware that they're part of the assassination. Okay? So, think about, I was in the military. I was told, one day to take these papers down to this office and don't let anyone else see them and don't let anyone else have them, and have someone sign for them and bring them back. Like that. Also, just to let you know, and this is what I'm talking about, and layered protection. I was 18 years old. I was a big, Ronald Reagan fan. So it was summer of 1984. Vice President Bush was coming to Atlanta, where I grew up. I wanted to help out, so I volunteered with the Republican Party, and I hit the mother load. I was with, he was going to be a senator later on. Paul Coverdale was the head of the Republican Party in Atlanta, or Fulton County. And my job, because I volunteered that day, was to call a list. I didn't know who I was calling. I found out later the list was people that were allowed by the Secret Service into the room for the fundraiser for president. So, you'll see on TV, the president will be speaking on some podium. There'll be all these people, in the audience paying $1,000 a plate for a fundraiser just to, see the president. And, then they pay extra money to get a picture taken with the president and all these kinds of things. This is typical stuff that goes on. I had the master list, okay? I called everybody to let them know that, hey, you need to get there at least an hour or 30 minutes, 45 minutes ahead of time because the Secret Service is going to close the doors early, okay? So I called all these people and let them know, and then I made copies of the list, gave it to Coverdale. They didn't have fax machines back then, or maybe they did. I wasn't using them. And then they put the list in a bag, sealed it up, gave me an address and a contact name, and said, go down to I think it was like the Hyatt Hotel, go to room such and such, and give this list to no one else but this guy who's supposed to be this Secret Service agent. I was like, wow. And even just thinking about it now, today, I can't believe that they would trust an 18-year-old. I could have been anybody. I could have been a fucking Oswald at the time. They didn't know who I was. It was my first day volunteering at the Republican Party. Anyway, so I get down to the hotel and I notice as I'm walking down the street, there are layers of people, men with little earpieces and sunglasses, some wearing suits and some, dressed like you and me, on the streets. I've noticed. And they made it obvious because they wanted people to know that there's protection. And then I get up into the hotel. First thing I'm doing is confronted by two guys in suits. And I said, this is in the lobby of the hotel. I said, well, I'm from Senator Coverdale's office and I'm a volunteer. He gave me a list of people that would be accepted or be attending the event. And I'm supposed to give it to so-and-so in this room, and the Secret Service starts to grab the guy starts to grab the list from me and says, I'll take it up there to me. I go, no. Senator Coverdale, I don't think he was a senator at that time, but he said, Mr. Coverdale completely trusted me with this list and said I was only supposed to give it to this person. And he goes, and the guy, whips out his Secret Service credentials. I'm Agent so-and-so with the Secret Service. You can trust me. I was like, no. Mr. Coverdale was really, really specific. Said only give it to this one guy in room so-and-so. And he's like, okay. And so they put me on the elevator. There's 2 or 3 guys in the elevator. It's just like from the movies. They all had, sunglasses inside the hotel. Mirrored sunglasses. They had suits on with, those vests and the ties. God knows why you would want to, if you're going to go into combat and have to protect the president and start shooting, why you would want to be wearing a tie. I don't know. But they all had the little earpieces, and I'm sitting there, and they're all like 6 feet tall, 7 feet tall, and I'm sitting there kind of, looking around as I'm flanked by these Secret Service agents, because they don't know who the hell I am. I could be some fucking psycho, communist teenager, who knows. One thing that I was surprised about is they didn't frisk me. They didn't pat me down. I was wearing shorts and not a t-shirt, but a polo shirt. But hell, I could have had a damn suicide belt underneath my my shirt. It was just hanging down. But I guess they didn't think about stuff back then. But anyway, so they brought me up to this room and went into the room, and my God, there was 100 guys in a 2-bedroom looking suite, and it was full of electronic equipment and radio equipment just all over the place. This is before computers, laptop computers and stuff, and there were guns everywhere, and everyone was armed. They all had off their jacket tops, and they all had the holsters with the guns, and there must have been not 100, I'd say probably 10-15 guys in this room, and there were guys on the, outside the doors, there were guys there. And as I left and they were escorting me back down, this hotel has these stacked kind of, it's open in the center and it's kind of pyramidal. It goes up to the top, and each level, there's balconies with rooms. And as I'm going, you can see every balcony and all the rooms through the open space. And I swear on every single balcony, there was 1 or 2 guys in suits with mirrored sunglasses and little headphones. So, anyway, I didn't mean to get off distracted here. We're at the end of the video, but I completely lost track of where I was on that. But anyway, I'm just saying, there's certain layers of protection that this was just the vice president, okay? But the vice president is a heartbeat away, or one Hinckley bullet away from being the president of the United States. And on that, I just wanted to mention also that, in case you didn't know, John Hinckley, the guy who shot Ronald Reagan in March, April of 1981, right after Reagan became president, and shot Reagan, shot Brady, shot a Secret Service agent who spread eagle to watch the bullets, and then one of the bullets ricocheted off the limousine door because it was hard and armored, and splintered, and one of the pieces went into the back of Ronald Reagan's back and punctured his lung, and they didn't even know he was shot. They were carrying him back to the White House, and he started coughing up blood. And it wouldn't be as big of a deal if the president had been like Bill Clinton, had been like in his 40s, but Ronald Reagan was like 70 something years old, and he almost died. And Ronald Reagan, they get him to the hospital, and they walk him in. His wife is there, and he says, "Honey, I forgot to duck." They go in, they X-ray, and they find out there's a bullet, or a fragment of the bullet, right at the, touching the heart. It stopped because it went in the back, and the tissue slowed down the bullet enough that it didn't puncture the heart. Talk about lucky as shit. You miss the president, your bullet fragments, and a fragment goes through the president and lodges and almost kills the president. I mean, you're like supposedly Oswald. You're a heartbeat away. You're, millimeters from becoming infamous. Luckily, Reagan went into surgery, and Reagan made this comment later on that he looked around before they were about to gas him and put him under, and said, "Gosh, I hope you guys." He looked around to the surgeons and doctors in there and says, "I hope all you guys are registered Republicans." I mean, because think about it. If the president had died, well, Bush would have been president, but, Tip O'Neill was third in line being Speaker of the House. But anyway, back to John Hinckley. So John Hinckley was found insane, okay? Even though he planned to kill the president, he fired 6 bullets at the president, he shot all these people. He didn't go to jail because he was found to be insane. That caused such an outrage that many state legislatures passed laws saying that a person could be insane and still have to go to prison. But Hinckley went to a hospital, I think it was a former Navy hospital, and was treated by psychiatrists, and did paintings and learned to play the guitar in this hospital from like 1981 up to about 2019, just a couple years ago. And he just got out of prison, and now he lived with his mother. His dad had died, and then his mom died, and so now he's living on his own. And he has he could literally go anywhere and do anything he wants. And he even has a Twitter account. I follow him on Twitter, and it's quite interesting. I do confront him with what he did, because I don't personally think he was that insane. I mean, but think about it. If you're going to commit violence, you got to be a little bit insane. But you shouldn't get away with that. I mean, think about all the people in prison, Manson and all these other people that went to prison supposedly weren't insane. You got to be a little crazy to be a murderer. I mean, come on. But it doesn't mean they should get out of going to prison. They should not go to a hospital and stuff like that. But anyway, Hinckley, if you want to follow him, it's John Hinckley. He's on Twitter. I follow him on Twitter. He sells T-shirts and paintings. He's got videos on YouTube singing songs, and he's trying to put together venues where he can go play, but he'll get a venue like in Virginia, because he lives in D.C. right there. He'll get a venue, and then they'll find out that, it's the John Hinckley that tried to kill the president, Reagan, and then they'll cancel the venue. So I've seen him post about 10, 15 different venues that he was supposed to play at, and they all get canceled. And now he started a new political party, even though he says he's not political. But I think it's insane that someone like that just, in 2000, after being in this hospital, being treated for almost 20 years, they still found that he was obsessed with Jodie Foster, because, the reason why he shot Reagan is because of that movie, Taxi Driver, where the taxi driver wants to become famous, so he tries to shoot the president, but ends up saving the president, becomes famous, and then this Jodie Foster, who plays this underage hooker, supposedly falls in love with him. Well, anyway, Hinckley was obsessed with Jodie Foster, was stalking her, going to her college dorm, slipping notes under her her door, and then he saw this movie Taxi Driver and thought that, oh, if I kill the president, then she'll surely love me, you know, she'll surely think I'm a cool guy, you know. It's like, I mean, that's crazy right there. Yeah, that's crazy. But he had enough sense to eat, he had enough sense to shave, he had enough sense to take a bath every day, he had enough sense to go buy a gun and practice with it. And, you know, if he was insane, he wouldn't have been eating every day. He wouldn't have been shaving every day. He wouldn't have known how to operate a gun. So, you know, there's a level between insanity and sane that's criminal in between, I think, that you still should be held responsible and never get out of prison. Especially if you try to kill the president of the United States, you should never get out of prison. You know, and or at least if you get out, you should at least still be on parole and have to report to the Secret Service or somebody every month. But no, he can do whatever he wants. He can surf the internet for Jodie Foster, where's she living, you know. And then is it no coincidence that Jodie Foster became a lesbian after this situation? You know, here's this one guy obsessed with her, trying to kill the president, you know, when she's like 20-something years old. So, is it no, you know, that'd probably be a reason why she wouldn't want to be hanging out with guys, okay? So, I don't know. But anyway, but it's just insane. And, but, you know, if you look at people that are crazy and you look at the Warren Report and they say, oh, Oswald was this insane, crazy Marxist-Leninist, you know, they're really talking about Hinckley. You know, Hinckley was more of the crazy, obsessed, unsatisfied person. Oswald, who knows whether he was a government agent doing his job, whether he was really a left-winger. But again, you know, he spoke favorably of Kennedy. Again, he knew about Johnson, and even tells the police that Johnson would be worse than Kennedy. So he didn't say this, but he's making the implication that why would I shoot Kennedy? Because we'd end up with worse. We'd end up with Johnson. But anyway, I've been rambling on here, so we'll get back into this later. I'm just trying to bring up logical points from the way I see it. I'm sure there's other people have other opinions. I'm not the grand poobah of knowledge on everything and anything. So don't take me, you know, saying I know better than you and I know all the answers. I don't. I really don't. I'm just giving you my opinion the way I see it. Just think of it's you and me and we're sitting in a bar and we're talking shit about the Kennedy assassination. That's what we're doing here. I'm just, what about this and what about that, and this is what I think about this and this is what I think about that, and then when you listen to this, go back and make comments, you know, point me in the right direction if I'm going down the wrong direction, and throw me some evidence. You always got to back it up with evidence. Can't just be your opinion. Now I take what they say here. I'm going to seriously get into serious evidence after we finish this chronology, but I'm just making comments along the way, kind of giving you a preview, a foreshadowing of where we're going. All right, take care. Bye-bye.